It is 00:00. And you are listening to the Best of Bond with your hosts Tylord and Wubs.
I must say, it's lethal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best of Bond with Wubs and Tylord here, your hosts, where we do in-depth discussions and reviews on all of the Bond movies, and we're up to the third one now already. I can't believe we're already up to one of my favorite movies ever made. I know that I said that about the last two, but I'm really serious this time. We're going to review and discuss Goldfinger from 1964, directed by Guy Hamilton. Are you excited, Wubs?
Who could be more excited than me? I don't know. With Guy Hamilton's first James Bond picture, then he comes out with a bang,
Oh, wow.
right from the beginning.
Oh, yes.
It's after you had seen the first two, you'd think things couldn't get any more exciting, but somehow Hamilton pulls it off, as we'll dive into.
And one thing I noticed on this viewing, we'll get into more of our opinions on it in a minute here, but one thing I noticed watching all of these back-to-back over the past few weeks, I know a lot of people have the idea that all the Bond movies are the same, like it's the same formula the whole time. I kind of feel that way too sometimes, but these first three movies are very, very different, each of them. Like they're very different movies. There's a lot of variety so far in the first three movies, but I've been getting that with our recent running through these movies. There's so much variety, and it got me thinking, like, there aren't very many Bond movies. I know that they say the formula gets kind of stagnant and it gets kind of repetitive over and over, but they're very different, these first three movies, and I think it's going to continue that way for a while. But anyway, but I know this is one of my favorite movies, and I'm pretty sure it's up there for you. But what was your opinion on Goldfinger before our most recent viewing, and what's your history with watching this movie?
Goldfinger is such a, I know I said this is the last one, but such an iconic movie in a totally different way from Russia with Love for the series and really the history of action movies in general, I'd say. And it's iconic in that, like you said, these first three films are all so different, and from Russia with Love being the one that really we talked about the brutality of the violence and the action scenes and how much more intense it was from Dr. No. And I feel like they just continued to increase the level of danger and excitement into Goldfinger, even beyond what they did From Russia with Love in some ways. It's a little less personal.
Yes.
You don't have James Bond going against a Spectre agent, but you have him going against a rich international criminal with all kinds of resources and bodyguards and people with all these very powerful villains that he's got to go up against. And so the stakes are higher in some ways than From Russia with Love. And I find that very exciting. As far as my history with the movie, it's a very personal one for me because it was the second film that I saw, and it was the first film that I saw in its entirety of the whole series. So to me, it not only is it the first James Bond film because it is the first James Bond film that had the full formula that we discussed. All of the elements are present in this film for the first time that would be replicated many times after. But it was the first film for me personally because I saw it first.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, what a good one to see first.
Yes, it set a high standard.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and the same with me. This is probably the second one I ever saw after The Spy Who Loved Me. So this is the second complete viewing of a Bond movie I ever saw when I was like 5 or 6. I saw this movie. That had a huge impact on me. I know this was I don't know if my grandparents liked every Bond movie, but I know they loved this one. So anytime this was on TV, we'd all watch it, and we'd always rent it from the library. I know my mom loved it. I mentioned before when we were kids, when we go on road trips, my mom would sing the song in the car, and I got a kick out of that. Would sing the Goldfinger theme song. I think, yeah, just seeing as a kid seeing this movie and The Spy Who Loved Me, I think that kind of encompassed everything that Bond is. And you get the cool henchman. I remember Odd Job. I thought was the coolest henchman, and in Jaws. So those are the two movies I saw. So I just assumed all Bond movies had henchmen. This awesome Jaws and Odd Job. It just all the characters are so iconic. There's so many iconic scenes in this, and so many iconic characters. There aren't too many villains in this other than the Biggie Goldfinger, but he steals the show. Gert Frobe and Harold Sakata, the weightlifter pro wrestler that plays Odd Job, really has wonderful screen presence and just like elevates this movie in so many ways. Like I said, there's not many villains other than henchmen in this, other than those two big bad ones. But man, they really carry the movie and really iconic characters. Same with the girls in this movie. Jill Masterson, you don't even see that much in the movie. Shirley Eaton, she's very iconic for being painted gold. That's the scene, her death where she's suffocated by gold. Just iconic character. And even her sister, Tilly Masterson, I always thought was a cool, interesting character. And even right down to, we'll probably get to them later, even to his caddy Hawker. I always loved his caddy in the golf scenes. All of his silly lines like, "It's your runner, sir," and "The ball you found, sir." I don't know why, but that guy is just like iconic to me. He was not in the movie that much, but in every little thing, the cars, are so many beautiful cars in this movie. It's the first time we see the DB5, the '63 Aston Martin. And Goldfinger's pretty, was it 37 Rolls Royce Phantom 3?
Yes.
Such an iconic, it's kind of like a not so much a chase scene, like a following scene through a beautiful scenery to the Swiss Alps. I know our buddy that leaves comments, BioPhoenix, has been to Switzerland. I went in to take some pictures of some Bond locations next time he goes. You got to talk to, but shout out to BioPhoenix, and then that big Lincoln Continental that gets crushed, Mr. Solo is demise, and then we get to see the Ford Mustang. I think it's probably the first time in film we ever see that '64 Ford Mustang, that body style.
And that was the first
Mustang. Yeah, that was first Mustang. Yeah. So much scenery. I know my wife does not like this movie that much. She thinks it's boring. Like she's a Bond fan. That's the only reason I married her. No, just kidding. But she is a Bond fan. But this is not one of her favorites. She thinks it's slow, and she thinks Bond is in captivity through too much of the movie. Like it's kind of slow, and he's always captured. But that never bothered me at all. I just love the pacing of this movie. I don't care if he's in captivity or not. It's just like the whole pacing and all the characters and all the interactions I love in this movie. All the beautiful women. I just can't praise this movie enough.
There's not a low point in it at all.
That's the other thing. Exactly.
This movie just,
it
can feel slow. I understand that. But as far as if you just look at it for how well the editing was done and the story build up and the pacing, it's a brilliant film.
Yeah. Peter Hunt brings his best once again. That's another thing. I know the Bond movies excel at many things, probably most things, but the editing is always one of the top things. And so is the music too. I think this is where John Barry really nails it. As much as I like From Russia with Love, I love that score and I love the title song. This one, I think, it's just sort of where he really takes off with that Bond sound and all the brassy stuff and like every single track in this movie is just iconic. Like from the title song with Shirley Bassey, and then it goes right into that Into Miami little instrumental when there's the flyover, the establishing shot of the Miami Beach Hotel, and there's that cool song playing, the brassy song. so 60s and wonderful and bombastic. Yeah.
And one of the last places you would have probably thought you'd see James Bond after the former two films.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. And apparently old Sean wasn't even there, and I think that's amazing. I know we said some of the back projection wasn't that great and From Russia with Love, but Sean was never there at Miami Beach. He was all that was all shot in England
Let me
or at
just
Pinewood.
related to
Yeah.
that. I wanted to make sure I mentioned this. I didn't even
Yeah.
realize watching the Blu-ray of this. I didn't even realize that those shots of Sean Connery at the hotel at the beginning had back projection.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that
Yeah.
until I watched the commentary on the
Yeah.
Blu-ray, and then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, of course this is back projection. But it looked so good in the moment when I was watching it, I
Yeah.
didn't even notice it.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably has a lot to do with like the sound design too. Yeah, just that's very seamless for him not even being there. I think the only actor that was there was old Cease Linder that plays Leiter,
Right.
was the only one that was actually on location in Miami. Yeah, great stuff though. I know there was a lot of back projection in that movie, and even at the end there was, I don't know, that animation where Goldfinger is flying out the plane like he's getting sucked out of the plane. That's pretty darn impressive for 1964. That type of animation or special effect where he's floating up and he goes outside and he gets sucked out of the plane.
Yes.
Almost like. But we start off with this movie with the gun barrel sequence, and so this is just pretty much routine now. After From Russia with Love, the opening gun barrel sequence with that wonderful James Bond theme written by Monty Norman. And I noticed that's the only time we hear it in the movie. So I don't know if there was some kind of legal dispute going on with Monty around that time. I know later on there was, but you don't hear the ding 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 in the whole movie, other than that opening gun barrel sequence. Did you ever notice that?
I think I did at some point because
Yeah,
well, and I
yeah,
think part of that is Barry did the full soundtrack again, and he
yeah,
probably just
yeah.
so many of the songs in this they're exciting in and of themselves. They didn't have to reuse that.
Yeah, yeah. And I kind of don't like it when they overuse that Bond little riff right there. Sometimes, like it's
Right.
every single action scene they use it. I kind of like it when it's more subtle, like maybe he's just walking by or he does something suave and then it starts playing. But you don't hear it at all in this movie, other than that gun barrel opening, which
Right.
is fantastic. I love the arrangement of it in Goldfinger, and then we go straight to the opening title sequence, and this is like the formula from many movies past. And there's an opening title action sequence that has nothing to do with the plot of the movie, and I love stuff like that. It's like a little bonus movie before you watch the movie. I've always loved the opening title sequences. I think this is the we had one in From Russia with Love, but technically Bond wasn't in it, so this is like the first one that I think many movies have borrowed from since then, where we see Bond sneaking up to the facility in Mexico. He has his snorkel, his seagull snorkel. He's disguised as a seagull, and he sneaks into this facility. He sneaks into that wonderful Ken Adam that was only used for a couple of seconds. That wonderful Ken Adam set that's inside of like a tank,
Yep.
and there's all kinds of explosives in there. It's a beautiful set design. Like it looks like it could be a villain's lair
It,
or a
it
villain
was
or a
it was so good, right? And that first
yeah.
location to me, every time I see that, I
Yeah.
think this is straight out of a comic book. That's what it looks like to me. It's
Yeah,
like
no
that.
kidding.
This is
Yes.
like a
Yes.
villain's. You can tell this is like some villain's
Yeah.
setup, just right off of a comic
Yeah.
book.
I think you nailed it right on the head, because this is the first movie that I think kind of feels like a comic book, like as far as the visuals. Yeah. So he goes and he blows up. Was the guy he blew up that facility? The heroin drug lord, was his name Ramirez? We never see him, but that's
I thought it
I
was
think it was
Mr.
Ramirez.
Big. I thought it was Mr. Big, Tylord, or am I getting confused? Is that?
Yeah, that's not for a while, but I know in the yeah in the book, he was on a mission in Mexico, and the book is pretty gritty and violent. He has a little scuffle in Mexico at the beginning, so I think maybe that's why they use Mexico as the setting. And then we get to he plants the bomb and he blows up Ramirez. I can't remember the guy's name. I'm sorry. He blows up his operation while he's
Yep.
at the bar, and you get the lovely lady dancing, and that's actually old Nadja Regan from Russia with Love.
Right.
Karen Bay's mistress returns to play the dancer at the club, and Bond's contact there tells him, "Don't go back to your hotel, Senor. Ramirez's men will be looking for you." And he says, "Okay, but first I have some unfinished business to attend to." Bond is so suave and almost like every shot of him is like out of a comic book in this. Like it's so well lit and all of the cinematography and all of his lines, so many one-liners. It's so perfect. And he goes back to I don't know if it's his hotel room or the girl's hotel room, and it's some wonderful banter between them. He pulls her out of the bath and starts making out with her, and he's holding his holster with his gun, and it digs into her as he's making out with her, and she goes, "Ah, why do you always wear that thing?" And he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, slight inferiority complex." and then, and then, where was I? Ah, yes. And then he goes back to the kissing. And then a cool little effect we see. She's actually a baddie, and you see in the reflections of her eyes one of the assassins. In the reflection of her eyes, coming to hit Bond on the back with a club. And that was kind of a cool special effect, being able to see the guy in the reflection in her eyes. And Bond sees that, so he swings her around. The guy hits her with a club. And then we get a pretty good little scuffle there, kind of reminiscent of the Grant fight in the train in that little hotel room. What do you think of that?
I thought it was great. Right, it's a great, exciting action scene right at the beginning. Right after you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
Bond has successfully accomplished the mission, he's got to fight this guy who's
yeah, yeah,
significantly bigger than he was too.
yeah,
Right, so which was
yeah,
kind of fun to see him how he handled him with the martial arts,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
ultimately doing the move that gets him into the bathtub, and the guy's reaching for the
yeah,
gun that he's just hung up because the
yeah,
girl complained, and Bond hits
yeah, yeah,
the lamp
yeah,
into the
yeah,
tub and electrocutes the guy.
yes,
And I watched the
yeah,
commentary with that actor, and he was saying that it actually, because of the way he
burned
fell,
him.
yeah, and
Yeah,
when they did the special effect, yeah, he actually got burned
yeah,
on the leg, and so
yeah.
his pain and his scream there is actually real.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah. That was
And
he's a pretty good stunt man. That guy.
but he kept in the scene, in character in the scene
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
so that's how
yeah,
good of an actor that
yeah,
person was. I forget his name,
yeah,
but yeah, he did a great job.
yeah. Yeah. He's a accomplished stunt man, isn't he? Or was he an actor?
I believe
Like,
he's a stuntman. Yeah, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they chose him because he
Mm-hmm.
was. I guess he said that they wanted him for the scene, or the director wanted him for the scene, because of all the stuntmen in the film. He was the one that they
Mm-hmm.
felt they could make look more Mexican than any of the others, based
Oh,
on
okay, yeah.
his facial features. And I think they
Oh,
did a
okay,
pretty
yeah,
good job with that too, because I wouldn't have known that
yeah,
he
yeah,
wasn't Mexican with
yeah,
the makeup job that they did.
yeah. No, that was good. And I want to notice, I always like to point out the wrestling moves in these movies. I noticed he tried to do like a toe hold to him or like an ankle lock, Bond, like when he had his foot.
Yep.
But I never really see that in movies. But that was a cool little scuffle. Like I said, it kind of reminded me of the Grant fight, but a little bit shorter.
Right.
And then we get yeah his little improv. I love this is like I think it started ever since From Russia with Love, but Bond always has like a really resourceful improv move to kill an enemy throughout the
Yes.
series, and we get this the heater in the bathtub, or what was it? Was it heater?
Yeah, I think it was a heater or a lamp. It had a light
Yeah,
to it,
yeah,
right? And that
yeah,
was
lamp, yeah, lamp, yeah, it was
so
a lamp,
it
a
lit up
lamp,
the
and
whole
yeah,
tub when it went in
yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. and electrocute him, and then shocking, positively shocking, which is kind of foreshadowing to a later shocking boss fight at the end.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. But then we go into the wonderful title sequence with John Barry's Goldfinger song sung by Shirley Bassey, and all of the Robert Brown John art style in that title sequence. So what do you think of the title sequence in this?
I think it was fantastic. Again, I think it built
Yeah,
off of what they did with From Russia with Love with the projection on the belly dancer,
yeah,
and they figured out they could do a similar thing with this silhouette of a girl painted gold,
hmm
and
yeah,
they showed a ton of film clips from the first two films on her
yeah,
body that I thought were
yeah,
really cool, and some of them even from
yeah,
Goldfinger as well. They showed the
yeah,
Aston Martin license plate flipping over her mouth when it showed that
yeah,
sequence, which I thought
yeah,
was cool.
yeah. I
Um,
like the golf ball, the golf that he's putting the golf ball, and it goes into her cleavage.
right, Sylvia Trench always, she likes to hit it in the rough.
Yeah, you know what? I just noticed the first three Bond movies. I don't know if the producers are big golf fans. I know golf was a part of the Goldfinger novel, and I know Sean Connery is a big golfer, but golf was mentioned in the first three movies. With first was Sylvia, and then Sylvia mentions it again in From Russia with Love.
Right.
And then there's a whole golf scene. Probably one of my favorite sporting scenes in any movie. In this movie, there's a golf scene. So there was a lot of golf references in the first three movies.
And both Sean Connery and Gert Frobe had to be coached on golf because neither of them were
Yeah.
golfers before the film.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought maybe Connery was, but also neither of them were. I
No,
know Gert may have had a.
it was working on
Yeah.
this film where Connery developed his interest in
Oh,
golf,
oh,
actually.
that's awesome. Oh, that's
Hmm.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know Gert couldn't really catch on, and they needed a stunt or they needed a pro double for him in a couple of scenes, though, right?
Yeah, they did. Guy
Yeah.
Hamilton talked about that in the commentary. He said that they
Oh,
did
okay,
have to
okay,
double Gert quite a few times, but I mean,
okay.
with what they came out with, it looks great,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you wouldn't even
Oh, it
know.
looks fantastic. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but that title sequence, I think it isn't it the girl that plays Dink is the model that's painted in the
Yes.
title sequence. Her
Yes.
name is Margaret something. Margaret Nolan. That was her, right? And she just passed away recently, right?
I think so. But yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely was Dink, and she, of course, was
Yeah.
massaging Bond at the Miami Beach Hotel in the opening
Yeah.
sequence. Yeah. And
Yeah.
later walks up and
Yeah.
says, "I thought I'd find you in good hands."
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Even someone like Dink who only has like 10 seconds of screen time is so memorable in this movie. Just her being there and getting slapped on the butt, like that's just
Yep.
and that's the only time we see her, but she's so memorable.
Yep. She only needed a few seconds to leave
And
a lasting impression.
yeah, yeah, then yeah. Yeah, as far as, well, I guess that kind of starts off with the plot of the movie. Bond's he's in Miami, and he thinks he's there just to relax. But of course, M has a mission for him. Felix Leiter comes and tells him to keep an eye on Oric Goldfinger. So I guess that they're suspicious of him smuggling gold internationally. I think that's the deal at the beginning.
Yep.
And he's a card cheat. He's cheating poor Mr. Simmons on the beach or on the in the hotel there by the pool. Every day he's winning. Mr. Simmons, um, he's just destroying him at cards, and Bond thinks there's something fishy about that. This is actually from the book, but it's a really the book is he's on his way back from Mexico, and he meets up with an old buddy from Casino Royale, or he wasn't his buddy, a guy who had played with him in Casino Royale named Mr. DuPont, who was like a millionaire or an American millionaire. I forgot what business he was in, but his name was Mr. DuPont, and he saw Mr. Bond at the airport when he was coming back from his mission in Mexico, and he says, "Oh, you're a smart guy, Mr. Bond. I want you to help me out with a problem I got. I know this guy Goldfinger's cheating me." So Mr. DuPont takes him to a nice restaurant and gives him a bunch of champagne and lobster and feeds him really good and offers him a job. I think he offers him money to go try to figure out this Goldfinger guy's been cheating him at cars. It's the the same situation or setup that they have in the movie where Goldfinger has his earpiece in, and his secretary Jill Masterson is in the hotel room behind Mr. Simmons with a telescope looking at his cards, and then she's telling Goldfinger what cards he has in his earpiece through a radio, and that was pretty high tech stuff back then. But it was also in the book, which was written in the 50s, so that would have been super high tech stuff.
Wow.
Like something like military stuff. But that just shows how much resources, how much Goldfinger this guy's so despicable and he's so arrogant. And he just loves to win so much, and he just loves to cheat. He's so greedy. It just tells you what type of guy Goldfinger is, and he pays all these beautiful women to be around him. Yeah, so Bond's tracking down Goldfinger in the plot. I was gonna read the back of the VHS because I don't want to describe the whole plot.
Sure.
So I have my VHSs. This isn't really that thorough, but I'll just read it. 1964 in color. The third of the thrilling Ian Fleming series, Goldfinger, exhibits the malevolent villains and cliffhanging suspense that have made the James Bond adventures so enormously popular. The dashing Agent 007, played by Sean Connery, is currently pursuing ruthless millionaire Auric Goldfinger, played by Gert Frobe, suspected of criminally tampering with Americans' gold reserve. The excitement never falters from Goldfinger's heartless suffocation of his secretary by painting her body gold to Bond's ingenious escape from the deadly laser beam. And this movie is 108 minutes, which isn't that long. So what do you think of the plot of Goldfinger?
It's like we said before, it's different from the first two films completely.
Yeah.
It's Bond is not dealing with the classic Spectre villains, whether they be a megalomaniac or someone defecting from Russia and trying to manipulate him. It's this. He's at the end of the day, he's a bank robber, but he's this fantastically well accomplished criminal, super villain criminal. He's been so successful in his criminal endeavors in life. He has essentially the power of a Spectre villain in terms of the army that he has behind him that Bond has to learn to figure out how he's going to defeat. So it's very exciting, and the plot is great. I love the plot of this film. I think it's one of the best plots in the whole series.
I think so. I think it is. I think it's so great they even kind of reused it in A View to a Kill.
Yes.
With silicone microchips rather than gold. And this movie is so brilliant. The plot, I think, is they even changed it up from the book, where the book was a pretty darn good book. But I'm gonna have to say this is like one of the few movies I prefer to the novel, and it's hard for me to say that because usually the novel is always best.
Sure.
The novel, really good stuff in the novel, but he actually does keep the all of the gangsters, the hoods around. He doesn't kill them in the book, and they actually go through a huge heist, a really intricate heist with many trains and many trucks, and the nerve gas and all that in the book. So they actually try to heist all the gold, like him and maybe 30 other American gangsters.
Okay.
Which I don't know. On paper, it sounds like it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't work, but they had it really planned out well in the book. But I think it works so much better in the movie how they did that. How like you assume he wants to steal the gold, and that's even what Bond thinks at first, and he thinks it's a ridiculous plan, and he's giving him all of the. He's laying it out like how how this is not going to work. Like, you don't have the time or resources to do this type of thing. But Goldfinger actually wants to plant a nuclear device in Fort Knox and blow up a dirty bomb and blow up Fort Knox and irradiate the gold for what, 50 or 60 years, and to increase his value in gold. And then his communist buddies in China get economic instability in the West, what they want. So I thought they worked that really good into the movie. They could have even like worked Spectre into this one. I'm surprised they didn't work Spectre into it. But in the novel, he was kind of working with Smersh. I know he would drop off gold in certain areas for Smersh to pick up.
Interesting.
But they ain't go into that in the when on his little Swiss trip, and when Bond's following him. I know Bond intercepted one of his little drop offs to mess with Goldfinger. And that's another thing I love about this movie, how much Bond messes with Goldfinger. Like, he's so arrogant and cocky, Goldfinger, and you just want to see this guy brought down, and Bond does it a lot. Like, he outsmarts him and brings this guy down. It never slows Goldfinger down in the least bit, but it's so cool, like you say, like when Bond is so smooth and kind of cocky himself and puts all of these really arrogant, cocky villains in their place.
It's always fun to watch, especially in this movie, because they're both. It's like the gentleman's battle is this film. They play golf together.
Yeah.
They are in public a lot together. And yet, they're not killing each other, or they're not like, they don't actively fight physically until the end of the movie. But it's another interesting kind of build-up, sort of like with Red Grant and From Russia with Love. Only rather than Red Grant being the Spectre agent that Bond doesn't have any idea about the whole film until the end, he knows who Goldfinger is right from the beginning of this film.
Yes.
So it's also a totally different villain that he's got to go against. And that's how big Goldfinger is as a villain. The CIA know about him, MI6 knows about him.
Yeah.
They're just trying to find a way that they can legally take him down. And they don't know about Operation Grand Slam until Bond finds out about it. So that's why, Bond has to do it himself. But he's already been captured. But even when he's captured, it's that whole same thing of sort of a gentleman. It's very civilized, the whole thing, from what we see overall.
I think this is where they get the trope of Bond never being in trouble. Although he is in trouble quite a bit in this one, but he just plays it so smooth. And even like when he's captured, he feels like he still has like the upper hand. Like, he has so much confidence, and he knows that his surroundings and what's going on. Kind of, you see that more like with Roger Moore. I'm thinking that sort of started with the guy Hamilton. Everyone kind of associates that with Roger Moore, like the Bond never being so smooth and never being in trouble and his hair never getting messed up. But they kind of associate that with Roger Moore. But I'm thinking it might be Guy Hamilton's movies, because this movie kind of feels like a Roger Moore movie. And also, Diamonds Are Forever really feels like a Roger Moore movie. Yes. And then, of course, Guy Hamilton did the first two Roger Moore movies. And so much humor, too. Like, we thought Terrence Young had humor. The humor in this one, I don't know if it's still the writing. Was it Maybaum? I don't know if it's him or Guy Hamilton, but like, this even ups the humor from the last two movies. While keeping it a suspenseful thriller, it really ups the humor in this. And one-liners galore in this. Not only is there pussy galore, there's one-liner galore in this movie.
Right. This whole film, I feel like they upped everything. The action, the scope of the plot, the villain, everything is just bigger in Goldfinger.
Yeah. And the man himself, James Bond. Like we said, he nailed it in the first one, and he stayed solid or got even better with From Russia with Love. and I think he's still at his peak in this one. What do you think of Sean Connery's performance as James Bond in this movie?
Yeah, I don't think it could have been any better. I don't think anyone could have played
Yeah,
it better in this film.
yeah,
And I think a great example of that is just how you can see Connery playing golf with Goldfinger from
yeah,
that whole sequence. Connery had never played golf
yeah,
before, at least not in any
yeah,
significant way. Never had any interest in it.
yeah,
But he gets
yeah.
on that golf course, and it's like you think that this guy's played golf for years,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's what I assumed. I
you
didn't
know
know that about
he
him.
knows all the
Yeah,
rules. He knows how to fool Goldfinger
yeah.
with the swapping
Oh,
of the
I love it.
ball. Like he's very clever. He figures out
Oh,
Goldfinger's cheating, and then Bond's like, "Well, who can play
oh,
that game?" And,
I love it. Oh,
yeah,
dude, yeah, just one of my favorite. Yeah, yeah, just one of my favorite scenes in all movies. That golf scene. Yeah, just like there's not really a gaming scene in this movie like cards or a casino scene, but I think this sort of takes the place of it. Well, I guess Simmons and Goldfinger are playing cards, but Bond doesn't really partake in cards. I think this like is sort of like the gaming moment of the movie.
right.
And like
Uh,
you said, he outsmarts Goldfinger. He lures him in, and Goldfinger's crooked too. Like he's even cheating during the match. Like he loses his ball. Oh, bad luck! You're in the rough. And then I quote this movie so much. I love this movie. Like little lines like "Oh, what a pity!" There it is. Like a lot of times I say that, and if I find something in real life, I say "Oh, what a pity!" There. But Goldfinger's cheating. He loses his ball, and Oddjob replaces it with a Oddjob has one in his pant leg. He finds it, so he's cheating up a storm too. And,
yep.
yeah,
He's
yeah, just a great scene. Yeah, yeah,
he's a good caddy, right? Odd job.
yeah,
Helping his
yeah,
buddy
yeah.
cheat.
I love it.
Just
Yeah,
like Bond's
and
caddy,
then
right? Bond's caddy is immediately on board with Bond cheating once he
yeah,
realizes that
yeah,
Goldfinger is cheating.
yeah. He switches the ball he found the Schlesinger 7. He replaces it with Goldfinger's Schlesinger 1. And his caddy's all happy about it. Did you switch him, sir? Yeah. Then we got him.
That's right.
Unless you notice there's a switch in it. Yeah, I just love that scene. Yeah, and Bond is just as he gets as many ladies as ever. I think they really up the ladies in this movie. As much as I think I prefer brunettes, but there's like just like literally a circus of beautiful blondes in this movie.
Well,
Um,
gentlemen prefer blondes, so I've heard.
yeah,
And Connery
yeah,
certainly does in
but
this
he,
film.
yeah, he gets a lot of women in this one, and he's so pompous and arrogant, like like the meeting with Colonel Smithers where they're discussing the plan to get Goldfinger, and Colonel Smithers like the head of the English bank, and they're drinking, and him and M are in there, and they're drinking the cognac or the brandy, and Colonel Smithers is complaining about it, and M's all, "What's wrong with it?" And Bond's like, "Oh, I think it's indifferently blended with an overdose of Bombois," and then and it's like, let Colonel Smithers do the briefing,
Right.
Bond,
Colonel
or
Smithers
Bond
is,
is here
is
to.
giving the lecture, 007.
Yeah, that's it. You know what? And yeah, I love yeah, just and how yeah, just everything about Bond is awesome in this. But I guess there's the girls in this, and we start off. We see old Naja Regan from the original film at the beginning. A beautiful. I guess he's the only non-blonde in this that he makes out with. But
Right.
good to see her again. I never realized it was the same girl until like the last 10 years when I've been researching Bond stuff. But to me back then, like all beautiful women look the same. But now I see that that's Karen Bay's beautiful mistress there from the last movie. And then, of course, in the pre-title sequence, we get old Dink in there, painted gold, Margaret Nolan,
Yep.
and then probably the first like impactful Bond girl in this is Shirley Eaton, who plays Jill Masterson, who is Goldfinger's secretary, who works for him. I don't think she's crazy about working for him. She just does it for the money, because when sees Bond, she changes sides immediately, and she meets her demise through skin suffocation. What do you think
Mm.
of Jill Masterson, the Golden Girl, in this movie?
I think, like Dink, she left a lasting impression in a very short period of time.
Yes, yes. And if you notice, when he calls up Felix after poor Jill is dead, painted gold, he calls up Felix and says, "Felix, get over here right away." He says, "What's up? The girl's dead." He's like, "What? Dink?" Like he can't even keep up with all the Bond's women. No, no, no.
Right.
Masterson, Jill Masterson. She's covered in paint, gold paint.
Right. And that scene right before that, where Bond was knocked out
Yeah,
by Oddjob, Guy
yeah,
Hamilton said that because the actor was a professional karate fighter,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
He had been a professional fighter
yeah,
before he got into acting, and Goldfinger was his first film. When
yeah,
he hit Bond on the back
yeah.
of the neck, it apparently actually really dazed Sean Connery, and from
Oh wow, wow! I didn't know.
this guy
Yeah,
was so strong that he said
yeah,
that he hit Sean like it was like just a very light tap, but it was still so hard.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
for anybody else, that it kind of dazed him,
yeah.
there. And
Can
um
you imagine that? Yeah. Can you imagine that guy? I think he's probably only like 5'7" or 5'8". He looks a lot
wow.
shorter than Sean Connery, but he weighed 283 pounds in that movie. Can you imagine
Wow,
that?
that's
Like just
insane.
how much mass of muscle that is.
Right. He's a
Yeah,
huge guy.
yeah, yeah. Then we get later on. I think one of the coolest sequences of the movie when he's telling Goldfinger, and we get Jill's sister, Tilly Masterson, in the hunt there, looking for Goldfinger in her Mustang. And I think she's a really cool character, although she's not in the movie very much. In the novel, she's in the novel quite a bit. Um, and like a Pussy Galore, she's a lesbian in the novel. I don't know if it does it come through at all in the movie that she's not interested in Bond. I don't know if they writ her to be a
Oh,
lesbian, but
yeah.
does it show like she's not interested? Like Bond's really turning on the charm with her, and she's not interested. I don't know if it shows in the movie, or if she's
Yes.
supposed to be lesbian or not. Yeah,
It definitely did. I never knew
yeah,
that she was supposed to be a lesbian,
yeah,
though. I always assumed that she was very
yeah,
cold to Bond because she was so focused on killing
yeah,
Goldfinger.
yeah. That makes sense for the movie. Absolutely, yeah. As well in the book, yeah, but yeah, Bond can't get through to her in the book or the movie. Like he's really turning up. Well, I'm so glad it's only the car and not you. You're not you don't look like the type of girl that should be ditched. Like any other one would be falling into his arms right there, but she's like, "Oh, get me to the garage as quick as possible." Like,
Right.
yeah, but even though she's a bad shot, she looks really cool in this movie with her like sneaky uniform on and her rifle. I really like the look of Tilly in this movie.
Yes. They made her very pretty,
Yeah,
very, you know,
yeah,
capable, despite her lack of
yeah,
skill. Obviously, it's a shame that
yeah,
she didn't,
yeah,
it wasn't ice skates in that case instead of a gun.
yeah. No kidding. Yeah, that was a cool little scene too. Like he's onto her, but she's kind of like a mysterious character. Turns out to be Jill's sister looking for revenge on her sister, which is kind of a cool little subplot.
Hmm.
And then I guess the big Bond girl in this is probably one of the best we've ever had. Honor Blackman is Pussy Galore, who's actually a bad girl in this. She's Goldfinger's employee and his personal pilot. Of course, Goldfinger likes to hire a lot of beautiful blondes to be around him, and it just so happens this one's very talented, and she could probably even be a Bond villain herself. She's super strong and intelligent, and Honor Blackman really plays this role well.
Yes.
What do you think of Pussy Galore?
I agree. I think she certainly could have been a Bond villain herself, and I mean, she really is.
Yeah.
She's the Catwoman character of the film, right? Because
Yes.
she
Yes.
plays both
Yeah.
sides, and eventually Bond
Hmm.
Bond convinces her to help him, and I don't think it took so
Yeah.
much convincing. Just a roll in the hay, right?
Yeah. Such a great scene. Yeah.
But yeah, I
And
think Honor Blackman is fantastic. I'd say again, I think she's one of the
yeah.
best Bond girls in the whole series,
Yeah.
and she really had that sort of, I don't know, just classic actress sort of look and
Yes.
vibe. Like I'm thinking a lot of um, Lauren Bacall. She kind of reminds me of with the deeper voice,
Yeah.
and that's sort of the vibe I get. And
Yeah.
we don't have a
Yeah.
lot of
She's
Bond
yeah.
girls like that, right? Who have that more. They have like a deeper voice.
Yes.
They're really strong. Physically, and even to the point
Yes.
where she tosses Bond
Yeah.
around with the judo, right? She's quite
Yeah. Yeah. She does some judo. Yeah.
quite good with him physically,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there most of them aren't like that. So it's kind of she's
Yeah.
relatively unique.
Yeah. Pushy, who taught you judo? Yeah, the one. Yeah, and the thing about her, she seems so mature and intelligent, like compared to a lot of them, like you say, and just carries herself so well. But I did not realize she's like one of the oldest Bond girls. She was 36 or 38 when she made this.
Wow.
She looks like she's like 22. She looks like 22 or whatever, but I can see now how like she carries herself. She carries herself like so well. Like this is a mature woman here. It's not just a little girl. Although
Yes.
she looks young, like she looks as young as any of the other ones, but yeah, just the way she carries herself, so fantastic. And in the book, she was a Harlem a gangster, the leader of a female gang in Harlem. I don't know
Wow.
if she's supposed to be that in the movie. Yeah, you really get like a Catwoman vibe out of her though, but and she was a lesbian too in the book until of course she got with Bond. I don't know if it was implied in this movie too that she was lesbian before Bond turned her over. I don't know if it was implied. Only part I remember was when she was on the plane and he kept saying, "Oh, cheers to Operation Grand Slam," and he's trying to flirt with her, and she goes, "You can turn off the charm. I'm immune." So that's
Right.
like the only hint that or it could have just been, I think, when she was on duty, she just turned everything off and she was professional. And then, like,
Yep.
off duty, she wasn't like that. So I don't know what it was in the movie. Either way, it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
great
very
performance
cool.
from.
And
Yeah, yeah,
now knowing, I want to watch it again now, knowing that about her
yeah,
character
yeah,
in the book, and also Tilly,
yeah,
because I didn't know that
yeah,
that their characters were gay in the books. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. So I think. I know we say it about all the Bond girls, but man, we have the first three movies are probably like the three best Bond girls.
it's it's quite a trilogy.
Yeah,
I will say
yeah,
that.
yeah. And then there's some minor ones. Of course, we have her circus, her gang of pilots are all the beautiful blondes. You always hear the brass saxophone or the trumpet every time you see them. The beautiful girls that fly the planes. Her Pussy Galore's flying circus. All those beautiful blondes. And then her little assistant. Her name is Lee May or May Lee. Isn't that the name of the girl from Metal Gear Solid?
Yes, or Mei Lin, right? Isn't I can't
May
remember.
Lin. Okay. Oh, May Lin. Okay.
I
Yeah. Okay.
think it
Yeah.
might have
May
been
Lee.
that.
I always.
It's been a long time since I played it, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Because I know old Kojima is all about inflaming and James Bond movies and all that, and always putting little references in there. So I thought maybe that was, but I'm not sure
Sure.
that was her name. Just Mei Lee's that beautiful little flight attendant in Goldfinger's personal plane, and she was spying on Bond, and Bond was doing his typical spy stuff, like he could see all of where the cameras and microphones were placed. That was something right out of From Russia with Love when he's in his little changing room and Mei Lee is spying on him.
Yep.
And she's very memorable too. Just she's only in it a couple minutes, but very memorable scene with Maylene trying to spy on him,
Yes.
and the wonderful little John Barry cues every time she gets caught. It would do that ting.
They made it a very funny scene, right? Like it's very comedic.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of with the music in this is so in sync with the score of this movie. So in sync, like even like when he's tailing Goldfinger in the on the Swiss country road. I think like one time Goldfinger like wipes his nose and like kind of is in sync with like he's taking a nap in his car and then he wipes his nose and it's kind of in sync with the score. Like just the score of this movie is so beautiful. Yeah, so tons of pretty girls. Um, yeah, and then I guess his allies. I guess we can't forget about Moneypenny has a short scene in this. We get to see her again, and M and Q. We'll get to them in a minute, but Moneypenny. It's kind of appropriate in this movie. We didn't see the typical briefing. Bond's usually late to the meeting because of Sylvia Trench. This time he's late because his lady friend died, or no, he's not late. He just shows up in his lady friend. So it's kind of more of a somber, sad moment when we first go into M's office. It's different than the first two.
Right.
So we don't actually see him pass through Money. We don't actually see him pass through Moneypenny's little office before we get to him. Might have been awkward and kind of like a downer moment.
Yep.
But first we see M briefing with Bond, and Bond's kind of upset about it. You can tell, and and M is telling him, "You better be calculating and cold with this, like any other mission, or I'll take you off of this mission, and 008 can replace you."
Yep.
And so we start off with that scene with M, which is a cool little scene. And then after that, of course, he'd go come over here, be at a meeting tonight. We're gonna discuss it. Be here tonight at 8, black tie. And then he leaves, and then we get to see Moneypenny. So then it's kind of lightened up by then. And then Moneypenny, I think, grabs his hat and throws it up on the hat, the coat hanger.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're doing some flirting, like, "Oh, you should come down to my house and I'll bake you something tonight." And he says, "Oh, I'd love to, Moneypenny, but unfortunately I have a meeting." And she says, "Oh, that's the lamest excuse you've ever given me. Who is she?" And then you hear the M phone in. "She is me, Miss Moneypenny." Yeah.
And then he walks
Yes.
out saying,
So
"Moneypenny,
we
won't
did get
you ever believe me?"
Money. Yeah, there's hope for me yet. Yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was cool. And then we go on to the first big performance from our boy Desmond Llewellyn as Q. What do you think about the Q scene in this?
It's great,
The Q
and
Lab.
you get to see Q
Yeah.
Lab for the first time, and you get to see all of the gadgets they're working on. Just from the beginning, like the
Mm-hmm.
first few seconds, Bond walks up to him. Q's doing something with another scientist by the table, not looking at him.
Yeah.
Bond walks up right next to him and pulls a
Yeah.
grenade out of a cup. And Q immediately
Yeah.
looks back at him and takes it out of his hand and puts it back. And I think that's the
Man,
perfect.
yeah.
That summarizes their whole relationship for the entire series.
Yeah.
After that, really, that's just a
Yeah, it
perfect
does. Yeah.
introduction.
Yeah, the Q, yes, the Q scene was mastered in this first Q scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's technically the second or third, but this is the first Q lab scene as we know it.
Yeah,
And we get to see the cool yeah. Go ahead though, Bubba.
oh, I was just gonna say that again. I mean, it being the first scene and all, it's so funny that they would be able to. It's so cool they would be able to establish that relationship so quickly and
Yes.
so efficiently
Yeah.
in the first few seconds, beyond everything they did in From
Yeah.
Russia with Love, because we saw Q in From Russia with Love, but there was no comedy, there was
Yeah.
no back and forth. But in this
No.
first moment here,
Yeah.
it's Bond is a tactile learner, right? He's a
Yes.
hands-on. If you looked at learning styles
Yeah.
of people, he's obviously a hands-on type of learner.
Yeah.
And Q despises that, right? He
Yeah.
wants to give him the lecture and tell him everything
Yeah.
about every piece of equipment with him touching
Yeah.
nothing, right? At all. He doesn't want him touching his stuff
Yeah.
because from Q's perspective, it's all
Yeah.
his toys, and he's
Yeah.
being forced to share them with Bond, right? Like,
I like how yeah. I like how he mentions, yeah, this will only take a half hour, and then you see like Bond roll his eyes.
no, hours, hours. If you give me a
Oh,
few
hours.
hours of
Yeah,
your
hours.
time,
Yeah, a few. Yeah, yeah, a few hours. Yeah. Yeah.
oh yeah. But and that scene too, when they get into the car,
Uh, yeah.
apparently they this was a late addition to the filming. They didn't plan to do that because
Oh, okay.
originally Guy Hamilton was going to introduce each gadget throughout the film
Yeah.
in the car.
Oh,
That
okay.
was the plan
Yeah.
initially, and or not Harry
Okay.
Saltzman, but Albert Broccoli
Brock.
asked
Yeah.
him towards the end of the filming. He was like, "Well, when are you going to do the introduction of the car and all of the gadgets?" And Hamilton said, "Oh, I thought we'd do it throughout the film because it's more exciting that way. People won't know what to
Yeah.
expect." And
Yeah.
Saltzman or Broccoli was apparently like, "No, no, you can't do that. You have to tell them what the car does and then show it to them. That's what you have to do."
Oh, yeah.
And so they had to write this script, all of Q's lines for that scene, telling
Yeah.
Bond all about the
Yeah.
car,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
film it. They said that it was like the Friday, time was running out.
Uh-huh.
They had to rush this script. Desmond was super
Uh-huh.
nervous shooting it because he didn't have the lines
Yeah.
in advance, and apparently he was one of
Yeah.
these actors who would really study his lines before he would go
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
set and everything. So he was freaking out. And but
Yeah.
they did such a good job, right? You'd never know that from the
Oh,
the final
yeah.
film.
No, you wouldn't know.
So,
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm so glad Broccoli, or was it Broccoli,
hmm
decided on
yeah,
that.
Broccoli
I'm so glad
basically
he did.
forced Hamilton to do it 'cause Hamilton didn't want to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So,
I guess it would have been cool the other way too, but I'm so glad because that's kind of like the formula from then on out.
right.
And it's also a little bit foreshadowing too, like, oh, you see this. I'm sure he's going to be using this later. I can't wait to see when he uses that. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Yeah,
It makes it exciting because
yeah,
you feel more
yeah,
like your James Bond.
yeah,
You know what to
yeah,
expect a little bit more, or what he's gonna
yeah,
do, or you're watching the action sequences and thinking like, all right,
yeah,
when he's about to use this now or whatever, like this might be
yeah,
coming up, that sort of thing,
yeah.
and
Kind of like,
it's exciting.
yeah, yeah, kind of like when you get a new power up in a video game or something.
Now, of course, they did the exact
Yeah,
opposite with The Spy Who Loved Me, right? Bond gets the car
yeah,
delivered by
yeah,
Q, and Q's like,
yeah.
give me a few moments of your time or whatever. I'll show you how it works. And Roger Moore just gets in and
He
shuts
just
the
drives.
door and says, "Q, have I ever let you down before?" Frequently. He
He
shuts the
drives.
door in his
He drives
face,
away.
right? As he drives off with Barbara
Yeah,
Bach.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's so
yeah,
funny. And so in that movie, we get to see all the gadgets in the car as the
yeah,
story progresses, and
yeah.
it's really fun, too.
Yeah, that works well for that. Yeah, mostly because most people already figure there's going to be gadgets on it, so I guess it would have been.
Right.
It would have been.
It was a good time to do
Yeah,
something new, I think, and
yeah, yeah,
fun, just to do it in a different
yes,
way.
yeah, yeah. So, oh yeah, so we get classic Q, like the birth of Q as we know it in this movie. Of course, we get a few good scenes, or a good scene with Moneypenny and M. And then later on, we get to see him again at the meeting with Colonel Smithers. And then, other than that, probably the only other than our boy Hawker, the caddy, who's the Bond's caddy at the golf game. The only buddy he has in this is Felix Leiter, who makes a return from Doctor No. It wasn't played by Jack Lord. Again, I guess they approached Jack Lord to be in it, but he was busy doing something, or he declined it.
Well,
But we got old.
was Jack Lord
Sorry, go
already
ahead.
doing Hawaii Five-O by this point?
That could have been. Yeah, that could have been why. Um, I heard somewhere they thought Jack Lord was too cool to be Bond, to be Felix, and it would take away Connery's coolness. I don't think that. I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
he did it in Doctor No, and it was
Yeah,
fine, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
he wasn't in that many scenes either, so
yeah,
I don't feel like it was that big of a risk.
yeah, yeah. I do like C. Slender. He's probably the first one I ever saw. So there's like a place in my heart. Like he was probably my favorite for a while, just because this was the first movie I ever saw,
Sure.
and and he has some little funny lines in this movie. Um, but other than that, yeah, I think Felix Leiter is like the only buddy in this. Um,
Yep.
but I guess we can move on to the villains though, and like I said before, there aren't too many of them, but the ones that are there count. Um, of course, we have all of the Koreans that Goldfinger's employs, and all the henchmen in their 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 blue jumpsuits with a yellow sash
Yep.
or something, or yeah, and a lot of them. They make for a good battle with the military at the end,
And going
and then
against
Mr.
Bond's car.
Yeah, going against Bond's car. Yeah, good stuff there. Cool. That's probably, I would say that's like the best car chase by far up to this point.
Oh yeah.
With the Tilly and Bond escaping Goldfinger's facility, and then poor Tilly getting killed by Oddjob, and then they capture Bond, and then he uses the ejector seat, of course, and gets the Korean henchman out of his car, and then there's that big chase. And then there's the old lady at the gate with a machine gun. I wonder if that was Saltzman's idea, because I always loved that. It always seems so weird and surreal, like something.
Right.
Yeah,
And she was flirting with
but
Bond
then,
when he drove by. She
yeah,
was
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
curtsy to him, you know?
yeah.
And he was
Yeah, that's
rolling his
funny.
eyes.
Oh, I know, I love that. But then I guess that's Pinewood Studios. They were racing around. What was that supposed to be? It was like an indoor like roads in a street. It looked like a movie studio, or what was that supposed to be? It was cool, but
Yeah.
it was like a warehouse with warehouses inside of it, and there was like roads. I'm
Right.
not really sure what that was supposed to be, but
Well,
that was pretty
it was
cool.
his facility. I guess just the alleys between the buildings of his
Oh,
his
okay,
smelting
okay,
operation, right, for smuggling.
okay, yeah, okay. I guess that's what it was.
Yeah.
But that was a
Yeah.
but that was a cool scene. But other than that, like the only villain, I thought I'd throw out Mr. Kish there. He was always there throughout the whole movie. Like no one really talks about him, but he's always like Goldfinger's like left hand man, Mr. Kish. He's always always over there with a little smug look on his face. He's so satisfying when Oddjob kills him. He's such a little weasel.
Right.
Um, yeah, but other than that, there's Mr. Ling, who is the communist Chinese guy working with Goldfinger. He's the one with the bomb, right, Mr. Ling?
Yep. Getting the bomb
And
into
Goldfinger,
America.
yeah, yeah, and Goldfinger turns his back on him too
Yep.
when it gets hairy.
Well, I wanted to
Other
mention
than that,
too, talking about Mr. Ling,
uh,
the significance of this. I
yeah,
never really thought about this, but because this movie
yeah,
came out in 1964, it, you know, the Vietnam War was going on
yeah,
already.
yeah. You're right. Yeah,
So it is kind of, it makes perfect sense that the Chinese would have been involved in a caper
yeah,
like this to try to
yeah,
destabilize Western currency
yeah. No,
because
that
of the
makes perfect
Vietnam
sense.
War.
Yeah,
But it's not
yeah.
mentioned in the film at all. But it is
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, yeah. No, it makes perfect sense for the time in that movie. Yeah, and I do like his little Nehru suit, like he has the Bond villain suit.
Right?
Yeah, yeah,
He does.
yeah. And then, but I guess the big heavy hitters in this are Oddjob. Oh, you want to talk about Oddjob? I could talk all day about that wonderful
Yep.
mountain of a muscle of a man.
I mean, he's got probably
Yeah,
the most iconic gimmick in any action movie
yeah,
ever, with his hat that he flings that has
yeah,
this laced with a metal blade that just slices, that breaks people's necks when
yes,
it hits them,
yeah,
and such a cool kind of weapon. I don't know how it was with metal detectors, but you probably wouldn't be
yeah.
able to get on airplanes these days. But at the time, it definitely looked pretty
No,
slick, and kind of
yeah,
a weapon he could take anywhere, and no one would think anything of it.
yes,
So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought it was so cool that it was that actor's first film. I thought he did an amazing
yeah,
job, for having basically no lines. Right?
yeah. He has wonderful screen
Yeah.
presence. Yeah,
Right. He's such
yeah,
a powerful presence as a villain, so
yeah,
intimidating. I think he's one of the most intimidating
yeah.
Bond villains in the whole series.
Oh,
Certainly,
yeah,
certainly one of the most
yeah,
intimidating henchmen.
yes, absolutely.
And
And he,
Bond can't fight him like he fought Robert
no,
Shaw and as Red Grant in From
no,
Russia with Love. He has to improvise, right?
yeah, yes. Yeah, what a great fight scene too. It's not as fast paced. It's kind of slow. I guess you could say it's slow and slippery because they're always sliding around on that slick floor.
Right.
It's a really slow, and then once again there's no music, but this time it's super slow fight, methodical fight. I really love this. It almost reminds me of like a pro wrestling match or something.
And
Um,
you hear the bomb
it's just
ticking. You hear the bomb ticking in the
yes,
background
yes,
throughout the fight, and
yes. Oh, I love it.
it's
Yeah.
so good.
Oh, it's so good. Yes, the bomb ticking, and you hear their feet scuffling around and sliding. I love that. A lot of old timey movies were like that. Probably mostly Bond movies, but I just love that. You just hear the sound of their feet scuffling around and sliding.
And Bond getting
Um,
thrown across the floor time and time again. Like you
yeah,
feel like
yes,
it's just he's just
yes,
getting just destroyed by this guy.
yeah, yes. It's almost like Andre the Giant versus like Macho Man Randy Savage or something like. Yeah. Yeah, but Bond, and then Bond, he tries his. I guess they call it a guillotine now. He does like the front face lock he did to Grant, and he was
Right.
smashing Grant against the side of the door. He tries that on Oddjob, but Oddjob just picks him up and launches him.
Yep. He tries to get Oddjob by
Yeah,
the neck, jumps up, and
yeah,
Oddjob just
yeah, yeah,
totally tosses
yeah,
him like a rag doll.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
And he tries
Oddjob
to hit him
stands there
with a
too,
metal.
like right at the beginning,
Yeah,
right? He just
yeah,
stands there and lets Bond
yes,
hit him, and then hit him with
yeah,
the broken piece of wood. He breaks
with a gold.
the piece of wood in half, right? And then
Yeah,
hits him in the
yeah,
face with it, barely
yeah,
flinches, and
yeah.
then he just throws Bond
And
into
he
the
just smiles.
wall.
I love it too when he picks up the bars of gold and throws it at his chest, and he
Yep.
just bounces off of his chest.
And the whole
Yeah,
time he's totally
yeah,
silent, just smiling at Bond, just slowly moving closer to him.
yeah,
It's so intimidating.
yeah. Oh, I love that fight so much. And then just like in From Russia with Love, he ends up the bad guy's weapon ends up being his demise.
Yep.
And you see, Godjob's never really scared at all. He's just playing with him. Another thing about Oddjob is before we get to his demise, he's so loyal. That makes him even more scary. Like this guy, he's like a machine. Like he's just programmed to do whatever Goldfinger wants.
Yep.
Like he has no emotions other than he'll smile a little bit. He might get pleasure from people's pain, but other than that, like no emotions. And he'll just do whatever Goldfinger says. Like he'll go to his death for Goldfinger. He locked himself inside of the vault with the bomb. Mr. Kish was all, let me out. I'm going to defuse the bomb. Come on, you fool. You can be a hero, but I'm not. And then Oddjob launches that little weasel off. That was a cool stunt through. He
Yes.
throws Mr. Kish off like 5 floors, and he lands on the bars um, above the gold vault there. And then, of course, he has the key. A suspenseful scene. He has the key in his pocket, and Bond is handcuffed to the bomb, so he's dragging the bomb over to get the keys out of Kish's chest pocket. But yeah, just so loyal, so scary. That guy would be like that. Like he's just like seemed like from birth he would have just been programmed to obey Goldfinger. and and just go to his death and just fight Bond till he dies, so Bond can't defuse the bomb. but
Yep.
but Bond is not. Yeah, but he's not afraid at all of Bond until Bond gets his hat. Because earlier he had thrown his hat and Bond ducked and he missed it, and it hit some electrical cords and it was laying down there. And Bond, in one of his little scuffles, Oddjob ends up launching him, and Bond lands near the hat. He picks up the hat. He goes, "Okay, I got you now with your own hat." And then you see Oddjob's actually nervous, and then they're circling around, and Bond's trying to line up his shot. And then Bond throws the hat, and Oddjob ducks. It misses him, and it hits the bars like they're like gel bars that are the vault. There's like a vault of gold, and there's like prison bars,
Yep.
locking them
around
out.
it.
And the hat, yeah, the hat sticks into the bar, and then Oddjob just smiles, and he walks over to get his hat. Meanwhile, Bond, in all of his resourcefulness, I love this kill. It's probably one of my favorite kills. He slides over there where the electrical wire had been cut off. He grabs the electrical wire and sticks it on the bars as Oddjob's grabbing it, and it fries him.
Yep.
Oh, it's so classic.
And the
Yeah.
actor also said during that, or well, afterwards, told
Mm-hmm.
Guy Hamilton that he was actually getting shocked or burned during that sequence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that
Wow.
wasn't supposed to happen, but it did, and so he was injured after shooting that, and Guy Hamilton asked him,
Poor
"Why
guy.
didn't
Yeah.
you let go?" And he said, "Because you didn't say cut."
Oh, wow.
That's how
Wow.
badass
So,
this guy was.
oh man.
Like.
So Harold, yeah. So Harold's just as loyal to Guy Hamilton as Oddjob is to Goldfinger.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But then that fall he did, you can tell that man has a lot of like core strength and stomach strength. That fall he took, he just fell flat on his stomach. That
Oh
actor.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed that he put his back to the bars when he dies, and then he just falls flat on his stomach? Like
Yep.
that takes a lot of
Face
stomach and
forward.
core strength to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so Oddjob's the man. I think we agree.
Yeah.
Top tier Bond henchman villain.
A great villain, great
Anything?
actor.
Yeah. Anything else about him before we get to the man himself?
I don't think so. I think that was the main thing. Other than just
Okay.
to say again, I don't think there's been a more iconic henchman than Oddjob.
Yeah. No
Jaws
way. Yeah.
Jaws comes to mind too. I think they're
Hmm.
both up there, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Oddjob is just very hard to beat.
No. Yeah. You're absolutely right. But of course, the man behind Oddjob is the biggie, the heavy hitter, the title character, Mr. Auric Goldfinger. What do you think of the main villain in this? I think he's up on top, one of the best. What do you think about Gert Frobe and his performance of Goldfinger and the character of Goldfinger himself?
Well, I think the first thing that is so impressive about Gert Frobe is that he didn't speak English when they shot
Yeah.
this, and Guy
Mhm.
Hamilton didn't know that the first day Gert was on
Mhm.
set. He found out once he arrived
Yeah.
to the set, and but Guy, being the resourceful director that he was, knew that he could film
Mhm.
Gert and all of his shots and dub it later with
Yeah.
another voice actor, and the
Yeah.
voice
Yeah.
acting
Michael Collins. Yeah. So
the
yes.
syncing
Okay.
though
Keep
that
going.
they
Keep going.
did is so
Yes.
good. It's so
Yeah.
good. You
Oh, it's
can
perfect. It fits him
yeah,
so well. Yeah.
it's amazing how good
Yeah.
that lip syncing. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that was another
Yeah.
actor until the last
Yeah.
few
I know.
years. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um.
Yeah. The actor's name is Michael Collins. Is the actor.
Mhm.
He kind of did what old Nikki Vanderzil did with all the other women. I think Nikki only did Jill's voice in this movie,
Mhm.
so she's starting to get less work at this point. But yeah, that Michael Collins dub, it was so perfect. Like you would never know that's not his voice. It stunk in there so perfectly, and it fit the character so well.
And the other thing I wanted to say about Gert Frobe as Goldfinger that I thought was very interesting now looking back on it is this is an actor who is well established at this point. This was not his first film, and an interesting choice for a villain compared to all the villains we'd seen before this, because he's overweight, right? He's a large man, and he's definitely overweight. And for the time, the early '60s, this guy was huge, right? Like
He's
you know, because
huge, morbidly obese. Yeah.
yeah, like
Now you just have to go. All you have to do now is go to Walmart and you
right?
see
Yeah,
100 guys bigger than him.
you'll see, yeah, dozens of guys and women bigger than him. He'll look small next to him,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but at this time, and watching the film too, right? I mean, Oddjob's a big dude, but like you said,
Yeah.
he's a karate guy. He's all muscle,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but Gert is he's got that kingly sort of vibe to him, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes, he does.
he is the
Yes.
man with all of the money, all of the power,
Yeah.
and it makes perfect sense, right, that he would have a sort of gluttonous sort of
Yes.
lifestyle with all of his
Yeah, it does.
wealth, right, and
Yeah.
everything. Of course,
Yes.
he'd
It's
be
perfect. Yeah.
overweight. It's perfect for the character,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think that was perfect casting right there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, what can you say about Gert Frobe? I mean, he's one of the best Bond villains in the whole series. I think
Yeah.
with his acting, the dubbing they did of the voice, all of
Yeah.
it, and his back and forth with Sean Connery. They're such a great
Oh, I love it.
mash
Yeah.
of good versus evil,
Yes.
and you just it's very rare in the series where you have, I think, a Bond and a villain that have such a good back and forth that is
Yeah.
funny and intimidating at the same time.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah.
constantly playing off of each
Yes.
other's ego in
Yeah.
this film.
I know. I love it. Yeah. And gentlemanly, as you said too.
Right. It's all very
Yeah.
prim and proper, very civilized,
Yeah. Yeah.
by
Yeah.
day, and then it's brutal by night. It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yes.
the way that it is, right?
Yeah.
They're playing
And
golf by
yeah.
day, and then Goldfinger's about to decapitate Bond with a laser at night.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Even
I
in
wanted
that
to point
scene,
out.
it's like
Mhm.
it's so prim and proper, right? He's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
it appears I have no more use for you. Good night, Mr. Bond." Like leaving
Yeah.
the laser off.
I think you made your point. Thank you for the demonstration, Goldfinger.
Right?
Choose your next witticism more carefully, Mr. Bond. It may be your last.
Do you
And
expect
he's
me to
back there
talk?
chatting. Yeah. Oh, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. There's nothing you can tell me that I don't already know. Or,
Right?
well, yeah, they're having a conversation. He's over there just chatting with Mr. Ling and Kish over there, like all nonchalantly as this guy's about to get cut in half. Yeah, that's a great scene. I also wanted to point out that the mobster scene, his little plan, like I guess it's totally unnecessary because he gasses all of them anyway.
Right.
But I thought that was a cool scene. That was in that Ken Adam designed room. I assume it's Ken Adam where
It
it
was.
was like a transform. It was like a transformer room where it was like a lounge and it turned into like a briefing or a meeting room. And a little map came up and a little scale model came up. Yeah, and all the freaking mobsters, and I always quote them too, like, "Hey, what's with that quick? Hey, what's with that trick pool table? What are you trying to pull, Goldfinger? I don't like this. Turn those lights back on."
It was so great.
You could tell. I think Guy Hamilton's really irritated by Americans, and he thinks they're annoying, and he got satisfaction out of that scene when they all get killed. I know
Right.
I did. I was like, yeah, fuck those guys, just kill those guys. And the only one we forgot to mention, Mr. Solo, who
Yes.
by his name, he's the only one that doesn't want the 10 million. He just wants to take the 1 million, and then he leaves. And then you get that scene where a pretty cool scene where they pick up that Lincoln Continental at the scrapyard with with the claw, and then smash it in the car smashing press thing or whatever it is, and then it ends up in the back of the little ranchero that Oddjob has. And I remember my dad used to get irritated by that, like, oh man, that would be so much weight. There's no way that little
Right.
ranchero could support that
Yeah,
way.
we were talking about that too because I was watching it with my
Yeah,
dad and
yeah,
both made the same
yeah,
comment.
yeah,
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 so that Lincoln, well, that
yeah,
Ranchero's got to have
yeah,
some kind of shock
yeah, yes,
reinforcement or something to
yeah,
be able to carry that little car or that
yeah,
compressed Lincoln.
yeah.
How cool is it too? Let's just say, since we're talking about the cars, that you got
Yeah,
to have that Lincoln Continental in the film. Again, a
yeah.
very iconic thing, kind of a sad thing, but
Hmm.
that was the car that JFK was shot
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
in Texas.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
just a sort of
Wow.
infamous car for the
Yeah.
time for that
Yeah.
reason as well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, some cool cars in this, that big Lincoln and I guess I'm not a big super fan of El Caminos and Rancheros, but I know my dad liked them.
Hmm.
Um, I guess they were pretty cool. Yeah, he did have a pretty cool El Camino when I was a kid, but they're kind of like Rancheros. That's the only reason I say that. But
Sure.
yeah, we get the Mustang and the Aston Martin, and then his Rolls Royce. So it's a beautiful old like car from the 30s. Goldfinger's car that he actually smuggles. All the parts on it are made of gold, and that's how he smuggles his gold.
Right.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah,
And
yeah, but Goldfinger top. Yeah, oh, go ahead,
well,
bud.
just related to the cars, in some ways that started a bit of a tradition, right? Because Bond would
Hmm.
always have the European sports car, the Aston
Yeah,
Martin or the Lotus
yeah,
or
yeah.
BMW, that sort of
A
thing.
BMW. Yeah,
And oftentimes there'd be a secondary car in the film, like OHMSS comes to mind fairly
yeah,
recently or fairly soon after Goldfinger, where
yeah,
Tracy has the '69 Cougar, Mercury Cougar, American
yeah,
sports car
yeah, yeah.
instead.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, and then we get the Mustang in Diamonds Are Forever too.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But we did get the '57 Chevy Bel Air in Doctor No.
That's right. Yeah, we did. We did,
Yeah,
which was also
yeah,
cool, right? That
yeah,
that
yeah,
was the first car. And I think it's kind of neat too
yeah,
because obviously America was the biggest market
yeah.
for these films.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so it's cool that we have a lot of American cars in the series,
yeah,
I think.
yeah, yeah. The producers are North American too, so maybe
Hmm.
that these movies always have a good American feel. Like, of course, it's their English or English writer in the English series, but maybe because of the producers, it does have like an American flavor to it. Some of these,
Sure.
especially like this, especially like some of the Guy Hamilton ones, like this one and Diamonds Are Forever and Live and Let Die. I
Yep.
guess because they take place in America. I
Hmm.
know a lot of people don't like it. A lot of fans don't like it when Bond goes to America, but I guess just because I live in America, I always love it when Bond movies where Bond's in America.
Hmm. Well, I think it's
Hmm.
fun in some ways. Certainly, the locations that he's in tend to be very iconic and memorable wherever they
Yeah,
are. But I certainly
yeah,
enjoy the European and Asian locations a lot just
yes,
because they're
yes,
so
yeah,
exotic, and I haven't been
yes.
there myself. So
Oh,
it's
yeah,
I find that that's one of the fun things I enjoy about it. But
yeah,
like Live and Let
yeah.
Die
It's like
being
it's
set in Harlem is at the
yeah,
time in which they did it was so iconic as well, right? Like that,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
used it for humor and intimidation in the film, right? A white man
yes,
in Harlem in the early
yeah,
'70s was not
yeah,
that was not a good place for him to be.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's such a good disguise, though,
Yeah.
right? White man in Harlem,
Brilliant
Bond.
disguise.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait till we get to that movie.
Oh, I know.
Um,
Looking forward to it.
yeah, but as far as Goldfinger, he gets his demise as he gets sucked out of the plane. That was a little bit of foreshadowing too. Earlier on, pointed her gun at Bond when she had him hostage on the plane and says, "We're going to be arriving at Goldfinger's airport soon. You can play it easy or the hard way." And she pulled the gun out, and this isn't a tranquilizer. And oh, Pushy, you know a lot more about planes than guns. That's a Smith and Wesson 45. You fire at me at this close to range, the bullet will travel through me and the fuselage like a blowtorch through butter. The the cabin will decompressurize and we'll both be sucked into outer space together. As for me, I prefer the easy way. but I've watched this movie a million times. I had this whole movie memorized. I remember when I first got my job at the winery, I was like low level and I had a boring job, and I would just sit there and watch bottles go by.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just to make time go by, I'd recite this movie in my head. But anyway, but that little foreshadowing later on is how Goldfinger gets his demise. Goldfinger hijacks Bond's plane at the end when he's on his way to meet the president to thank him for a mission accomplished. And Goldfinger has hijacked the plane, and of course they get into a little scuffle on the plane. And Bond with Goldfinger's golden gun. I forgot to mention that Goldfinger actually has a golden gun in this movie, a little revolver.
Right. Which is
Which
a
I
fun
don't know if
foreshadowing to a later film.
yeah, 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 and he shoots out the window, and then old Gert gets sucked out. I don't know how they did that, like some kind of animation or overlay.
It looked so good though. If that was a
Yeah,
dummy
yeah,
and a bunch of fans, that
yeah,
was it looked
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because he was moving around. It was like maybe they green screened him or blue screened him
Yep.
and overlaid that over him. It looked really good though, and then he got sucked out of the plane.
They
And
probably
then
had him
we
on
get
wires,
the
like you said, with a green screen or a blue
yeah,
screen of some kind.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 and then that was super cool. I think in the book it was Oddjob's demise. He ended up getting sucked out of the plane.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't give too much of the book away. The book's really good though. I think you would really enjoy it.
Oh, definitely. I definitely want
I
to
would
read
kind of.
it.
It's a lot different. All the key points are still there. Like I thought maybe the hat was something made up for the movie, Oddjob's hat, but that was in the book. Oddjob had his hat.
Mm-hmm.
That I think he had an Aston Martin and Goldfinger had a Rolls Royce. I could be wrong. It's been a while since. It's the only book I ever read twice in my whole life. I've never read a novel twice,
Mm-hmm.
but I know he may have had an Aston Martin. It might have been an older version or an
Sure.
older model because the book was. But it may have been an Aston Martin in the book. It's been a while since I've read it. And he had all the equipment and all that, which was cool. And Tilly and Jill and Pussy were all in the novel.
Yep.
And Leiter was in it with his hook hand and his because this is after Live and Let Die, so he had a prosthetic hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the great book. But where was I going with that? Goldfinger. Goldfinger's demise in the plane. Oh yeah, and then all the one-liners, of course, at the end. Oh yeah, there's every single kill he does in this is a one-liner with Oddjob. Or first is positively shocking at the beginning, and then when he electrocutes Oddjob, but here comes Felix. Hey, what happened to your butler friend? What happened to your butler friend? Oh, he blew a fuse. And then Goldfinger, after he got sucked out of the plane, he goes up to help Pussy, who's at the cockpit. And she goes, James, what happened? Where's Goldfinger? Playing his golden hop. So what do you think of the ending of this one? Does it hold up to the others, or how do you like the final ending of this?
I like it a lot. It's one of the rare ones where Connery doesn't end up in a raft with a woman,
Yeah.
or like on water.
Yeah.
So it's a little different, but given the setting, it makes perfect sense that they would, Kentucky or well, not Kentucky, but where did the plane go down exactly? I can't remember.
Was it in Maryland or somewhere over
Yeah,
there on the
must have
east near?
been.
near you.
because
Yeah.
the plane actually crashed in water,
Oh, the
but
plane was in the water. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. They could have just done it. I wonder why they just didn't do it on a raft.
maybe they just wanted to be different from the first two films.
Yeah,
That's probably what it
yeah,
was. So yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
his film essentially ended the same way otherwise. So
yeah,
not a bad way to
yeah,
end a movie.
yeah. And I remember thinking they were like in a forest somewhere or somewhere in the rough. But as I saw it this time, it looked like it was like a park or a golf course
Right.
or someone's backyard. Like it was well trimmed. It looked like it was just like a park or like the grounds of a college or something. Or it looked like a well kept place. It
Mm-hmm.
seemed like before I thought they were in the forest or something. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She's waving for Felix to help them, and then he pulls her back down. Oh no, you don't. This is no time to be rescued. And
Yep.
dun, dun, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the music was so good. We should say as well. I know we talked about John Barry a
Hmm.
lot, but Shirley
Hmm.
Bassey's first of three Bond films
Oh yeah.
themes,
Yes.
and you can see why they brought her back just from this one
Oh yes.
alone.
Yes. Oh,
And
I'm so glad
yeah,
they did.
mm-hmm. Just
She's
a
pretty much like yeah,
amazing song.
right. The most. Yeah. It's a weird song too. I think Anthony Newley wrote it, and I
Hmm.
think he has a recording of it. And I
Yes.
know John, yeah, and I think John Barry was composing it and putting it together while he was staying at Michael Caine's apartment.
Hmm.
Because I know I always hear Michael Caine say, "Yeah, he's always playing that Goldfinger song, keeping me awake." Like he had a room at Michael Caine's place. I guess John Barry's buddies with Michael Caine.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, I think it's just a really cool song, and
yeah,
obviously the arranging is so good. It's so epic. It's got all
yeah,
the hallmarks of a great Barry song, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
with the horns and the larger than life
Mhm.
sound right from the beginning,
Yeah, yeah,
it carries on what he started with from Russia with Love with that sort
yeah,
of energy for a title sequence
yes,
song, and it's one of the louder songs
yeah,
that a woman sings in the
yeah. It
themes,
is.
so in terms of the
Yeah,
instrumentation, which is kind of cool.
yeah. You're
And
right. Yeah,
uh,
you're right.
at the same time, I would say like I don't think there's really a more iconic Bond song than that one.
Mm-mm.
If you were going to choose one that
No.
really defined the sound of the title sequence, the theme song of a film,
Yes.
it's not my favorite
Yeah.
personally, but it is just so iconic, and it
Hmm.
has everything. It just has everything.
Yeah. It's such a unique song too. Like I can't think of any other song with chord provi- any chord progression similar to that. I couldn't play that song for years. It's a really unconventional like chord progression, but it
Hmm.
sounds good. That's why I like John Barry can put together chords like you wouldn't think would go well together, but it sounds fantastic. Yeah, it's a really different song. I don't can't really compare it to anything else, but it's such a cool song, especially with all the brass and you hear the little Bond riff in there towards the end.
Yep. And Shirley Bassey's singing was so good. Of
Hmm.
course,
Yeah.
it's again, it's such a big jump from one to the other, right? When we
Hmm.
talked about From Russia with Love,
Yeah.
I think I mentioned I really like John Barry's
Hmm.
instrumentation for the theme they used in the title sequence more than the vocal recording with Matt
Yeah.
Monroe. And but with this one, it's like
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
finally all came together, right? It's the Barry sound, the Barry
Yes. Yeah, I see
band
what
with
you
all the
mean. Yeah.
music, the arranging, and you've got this woman with a very
Yeah.
powerful voice to match it. That it goes so well together.
Yeah.
In some ways this is the first Bond theme in that sense. Like this is the first real. You've got the
Yeah.
vocals and all of the arranging, and that's from
Yeah.
someone who, by the way, if you watched the Our Best of Bond series earlier, you know OHMSS is my favorite theme, and that's a Barry song that
Yes.
is an instrumental. But I'm still saying this was the first, like everything came together here, and it's just so
Yeah.
iconic with Shirley singing.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. That. Yeah, and she always has that big finish where she carries the note for a long time, like 10 seconds or
Yep.
longer.
Yep, such a powerful voice.
Yeah, I
Still
love
an
it.
amazing singer to this day. Her voice
Yeah.
has held up so well
Oh,
over the
yes.
years.
Yes. I, yeah, I was watching a recording of her recently, like in her 80s, singing Diamonds Are Forever. Like, it's still as strong as ever, her voice.
That's so cool. Love to see
Yeah.
that for sure. And of course, she did Diamonds Are Forever,
hmm
and she also did
Moonraker.
Moonraker. Yeah.
Moonraker.
And
Yeah.
we know of at
And she did
least
Mr.
which one?
Yeah. Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from
Ah,
I think it was an unused song from the next one, Thunderball. She has a recording of that.
right. I forgot that. I have heard
Yeah,
that song. I actually
yeah, that's
had
a
that
good one.
song on a compilation CD of Bond
Yeah,
themes when I was a
yeah,
kid. I remember that. Now
yeah,
I hadn't thought of that in
yeah.
years. But yeah, she did that, and also she did the Rejected theme that we both love from Quantum of
Yes,
Solace.
yeah, I love it. Oh, I love
Yeah,
that song. Yeah,
so good.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So cheers to Shirley.
yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So anything else you want to add before we conclude this or get on to our final thoughts?
Hmm. I think we've covered most things that I wanted. One thing we didn't
Okay.
talk about. We have to talk about the Ken Adams sets in this film,
Yeah, yeah.
because they are
Oh,
just
right. Yes. How
spectacular.
could I forget? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
like we said, we did talk about the first one at the beginning for the pre-title sequence that felt like it
Yeah.
was straight out of the comic book, the heroin refinery plant that gets blown up
Yes.
right at the
Yes.
beginning, which was,
Yes.
I guess, more than a minor inconvenience for
Yeah.
the drug dealer in this film.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
also just the filming that they did for the interior where they have the dinner with the Colonel with Colonel Smithers,
Yeah.
and that was not an
Yeah.
actual location, that was a set. It didn't have
Yeah.
a full ceiling, I believe, so but they made that
Oh,
room
wow.
look so ornate and beautiful.
Oh,
You
wow.
would think that it
That's
was inside of
wonderful.
a mansion, right? It was so gorgeous.
Yeah. That's another
Yeah.
surprise there. Yeah.
Hmm.
And of course, yeah, you can't forget about the Fort Knox interior. When I was a
Yeah.
kid, I thought, "Oh, that's how Fort Knox looks." Like, of course, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look anywhere near that awesome.
Right. That's what I was thinking. It's like watching it this
Yeah,
time. I was wondering too because I didn't know if somehow
yeah.
they had actually filmed that,
Mm-hmm.
at a government site, even if it wasn't Fort Knox or
Yeah.
whatever, some
I think
other
they did
place.
film
But
some. Yeah,
they did some
yeah. A lot of it
scouting,
they filmed
right?
on
Yeah, the
the
exterior.
exterior. They did get some. Yeah,
So the exterior
and
was fairly accurate,
yeah.
probably from the
Mm-hmm.
shots or the inspiration they took.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Ken Adam
Yeah.
went to Fort Knox, but they wouldn't even let him
Yeah.
come but so close to the building.
Yeah.
He got sort of
Yeah.
close. He could see it, but yeah, there
Yeah.
was all this crazy security there for good reason. You can
Yeah.
understand why, and
Yeah.
but it's so cool that he was able to take what he learned from that trip to build what he thought Fort Knox might look like. But I totally agree with you. I think it was way more
Yeah.
grand and beautiful than what a
Yeah.
U.S. government facility would actually look like. As far as a
Yeah.
repository for gold would go, I'm sure the real thing is far more bland and
Yeah.
boring than a Ken Adams set for a James Bond film.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful. Yeah. And also the laser room was pretty darn cool. That's kind of iconic looking set.
Yes, Yes,
Goldfinger's laser. Yeah,
with the giant bar of gold that Bond is on, that the laser cuts
yeah,
through.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yes,
good. The
yeah,
refinery, all of the smelting that was going on.
yeah,
Get
yeah. That was
Goldfinger
fantastic.
getting the gold out of his Rolls Royce because he had smuggled a ton of gold in the
Yeah,
car,
yeah,
integrated to look like the car parts,
yeah,
which was also fascinating. Another vehicle that would have had
yeah.
some reinforced shocks if that was true with all that gold.
Yes, if it was all gold. Yeah, yes, yeah.
Gold is a
I think
heavy
they
metal.
may have talked about that. Yeah, I think they may have talked about that in the book.
Yep.
Oh no, I think he did mention it. He says, "I have." Didn't he? Wasn't he talking about that to Mister Ling about was enforced? I can't remember. It might have been the book. I can't.
Hmm.
But yeah. But then also all of that stuff was not in Miami Beach. All that stuff
Right.
that was just a set that was built. So that was pretty cool.
The shots they
And
did
of course,
from the
Bond.
balcony, right? The
Yeah,
balcony shots with
yeah,
Jill, that was also at
yeah, yeah,
Pinewood with and
yeah,
they took a lot of time to line that up so that it looked like they were both
yeah,
looking out on the terrace, but it was
yeah. That was
actually
good. Yeah,
the screen behind them.
yeah, that was good.
Yeah, very very good
Yeah,
filming.
yeah, and we can't forget about Q's lab. That's the first time, and I think it's always kept that same look since then, right?
Hmm. Very similar. I mean, that certainly
Yeah,
set the tone for
yeah,
everything. There's all this stuff going
yeah,
on around Q, all these
yeah,
scientists doing these different things, and you can tell it's just
yeah,
a big inconvenience to have to give equipment and explain equipment to. I mean, it's
yeah,
just so intolerable with the busy schedule
yeah,
Q has and all of the gadgets he's
yeah,
working on. You know that he has to be degraded to this sort of work. You know.
yeah. Right.
And Desmond Llewellyn talked to Guy Hamilton before shooting that scene, and they developed it, I guess, on set, this idea because Desmond thought that he should be very technical, kind of like he was in From Russia with Love, and very,
Yeah.
very like just proper and giving him all the things. And
Hmm.
Guy was like, "No, don't do
Hmm.
that at all. This is all you don't like this person." this this
Oh
is
wow.
this is
Yeah.
an inconvenience to your work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You want to get him out, of there as
Yeah.
quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You know? It was so funny,
Oh, I'm so. Thank you, Guy Hamilton.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, after your most recent viewing, has your opinion changed on this movie, and how do you feel about it now?
I think that I had a high opinion of it before I watched it, as we
Hmm.
discussed at the beginning, and I think that my opinion now is just as high as it ever was. It's
Yeah.
been fantastic again watching it fully restored from the negative, the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
With the TV that I'm watching it on, the Samsung, again, it looks so
Yeah.
clean, and it
Yes.
once again felt like watching a play, almost like it just
Yeah.
felt like I was in the show, and
Hmm.
that's added so much to the viewing experience for these films. These films are good on anything. You could watch these on a VHS tape
Yeah.
and you'd be entertained.
Hmm.
But it's been
Hmm.
really fun to see the restoration process again and
Yeah.
feel like seeing it for the first time. And once again, you can tell like it was just a huge jump. The budget they had was
Yeah.
bigger. It was the combined
Another
budget of
million.
the
Yeah.
first two films. I think they said $3 million
Yep.
dollars is
Yep.
what they
Three
had
million. Yep.
for this one.
Yep.
So that was also exciting. This was the film that
Hmm.
that brought Bond apparently to international acclaim. The first two had been hits in America and England, but this one
Yeah.
was like the first one that was really big worldwide.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about the release, Gert Frobe apparently was accused of being a Nazi sympathizer before the
Hmm.
film released in Israel, but there was a Jewish man who researched it researched Gert,
Yeah.
his history, and actually found out that he had risked his life to save Jews
Yes.
during World War II, which
Yeah.
made him a bit of a national hero in Israel. And the
Yeah.
film apparently shattered every film
Oh,
opening record
excellent.
in Israel at that time
Yeah.
when it was
Wow, excellent.
released. So I thought that was really
Wow.
cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yes.
what's I don't think I could have a higher opinion of the film.
Yeah.
Really, it is
Hmm.
it's right up there with From Russia with Love as one
Hmm.
of my favorite Connery films, and one
Yes.
one of my
Yeah, same with me.
favorites in the series as well.
Yeah.
So, and boy, if you
Yeah.
like blondes, there's not a better Bond film
Yeah.
than this one. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. We got blondes flying around everywhere in this. Yeah.
Yep, and the
Yeah, I
flying
love it.
Pussy
I
Galore's
feel
flying circus.
yes, yes. Yes, I feel the same way. This was always in my at one point this was my favorite movie. I've always had it like in my top 2 or top 3. I don't think anything's changed after this viewing. I sound like a broken record. I've been saying this about every movie, but it's hard to top From Russia with Love and Goldfinger, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it really is. But
Yeah, but
I'm
it's gonna be yeah,
I'm still looking
it's
forward
gonna
to
be
Thunderball, regardless.
oh yes, yes, yes. Yes, and speaking of that $3 million, it was increasing by a million every movie up until the next one, and that one's going to be doubled. Thunderball's
Hmm.
budget was 6 million, so let's see if they put that 6 million to good use. I can't wait to watch the Thunderball. We go back to Terrence Young next time.
Yep.
Let me gloat about Goldfinger a little bit more before we talk about that. Yeah, Goldfinger, one of my favorite movies of all time. Like I said, I used to recite it in my mind when I was bored. That's how much I love this movie. Yeah, so it'll be hard to top Goldfinger, but I can't wait for Thunderball because it's been a while since I watched that one. I don't think I've watched many Bond movies since before my open heart surgery. So this is
Hmm.
kind of like watching them all with like a fresh take. A recent viewing, so I can't wait to watch Thunderball. Um, I think that's when the budget starts getting really big, and is starting to become a household name
Yep.
with Thunderball.
And it makes sense, right? Because Goldfinger was such a big
Hmm.
international hit. I'm
Yeah,
sure they made more money on
yeah.
it than the first two,
Hmm.
and
Yes,
the budgets were just going bigger and bigger as they went.
yeah, yeah. And I was gonna ask you, would you prefer doing the Never Say Never Again review after Thunderball, since it's like a remake, or would you rather wait and do that around the time of Octopussy? I think it would
Uh,
go well to go back to back with either of those movies.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really have a preference. I could see it
Okay.
just being Connery, doing the Connery films
Yeah.
together, or just to mix it up
Yeah.
with Roger Moore. You know, a lot of people
Okay.
like Never Say Never a lot because they didn't like Roger Moore very much, and they
Oh,
liked being
okay.
able to see Sean Connery
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah.
But you know, I'm
Yeah.
open to doing it either way, really.
Yeah. Okay, I was thinking maybe to drag it out. I know you are going to be taking a trip to Japan, and I kind of wanted to schedule that with our "You Only Live Twice" review, but
Oh,
that might
okay.
be a while.
Yeah.
That might be a while though. So I was thinking if there's a way to stretch out our other reviews and content.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. I'm not sure when I'll be
yeah,
going for that, so
yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want to hold up the show for it. But
Okay,
when I
okay.
do go to Japan, I'll definitely be looking for Bond locations for
Oh,
to get some
excellent. Yeah,
pictures. Like I hope our buddy there gets some shots of Switzerland the next time he's there,
yeah.
because that would be really fun as well for
Yes, yes.
OHMSS.
Yeah,
And yeah, so it would be fun at the very least when I'm in Japan to be able to drive that
yeah,
Toyota car that Bond
yeah,
gets to drive in the
yeah,
film.
yeah. And what is the name of that castle? Or it's like a big pagoda house. You see it
Yes,
a lot in movies. I forget the name of it.
I know
I
what
don't
you're
know if that's
talking about, but I forget the name of it.
yeah. I would like to. That'd be cool to see that. I don't know if you're going to be anywhere near that. but yeah,
Yeah.
you see it in a lot of You see it in a lot of movies. I think Godzilla and King Kong smashed it before, and it might be it might be in a couple Street Fighter games. But I
Right.
remember it was in for it was in You Only Live Twice.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another fun.
There's
Yeah.
so many beautiful places, and You Only Live
Yeah.
Twice
Yeah.
from Japan. Yeah. But Goldfinger, again, it sounds like you enjoyed it just as much as I did. You hold it in just as high
Yes.
regard as I do in the
Yeah.
series. And again, I feel like I know I said this was From Russia with Love, but it's one that's just really hard to beat in terms of
Yeah.
an overall film and how entertaining it is. And
Yeah.
we were so fortunate to have Terrence Young on the first two films, and we are fortunate that this was Hamilton's first film.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
it was great. It's a very different film from the first two,
Mhm.
like we said, but
Mhm.
I think that's the other reason why it just doesn't get stale. We have different directors throughout the
Yes.
series, working with the stories and the tropes and all of it, but
Mhm.
somehow they manage to always keep it fresh and interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't research it or watch the commentary. Was there a reason Terrence didn't come back for this? I know he's
Yes,
credited. He's an uncredited producer of the movie, but I
right.
didn't know why he didn't come back.
He didn't come back because he had a falling out with the producers. He wanted
Okay.
a percentage of the profits of
Okay.
Goldfinger, and they didn't,
Okay.
yeah, they didn't want to give it to him, and so he
Okay.
decided not to direct.
Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm glad he came back for Thunderball though.
Yeah, I'll be very
Yeah.
interested to watch the commentary and find out how all of that
Yeah.
worked
Yeah.
out and what his contract was for
Yeah.
Thunderball.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot more controversy surrounding Thunderball behind the scenes when we get to that one. I don't know
Yeah.
if we'll go too deep into that, but yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's such an exciting film too, so
yeah,
it's another
yeah,
great one, and
yeah,
perfect right now. Right, we're coming into summertime, and
yes,
Thunderball is the perfect summer action adventure
yeah.
film.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't wait for this movie. Yeah,
so it's going to be a good week for sure.
yeah, good.
If you're enjoying
Yeah.
this series, tune in because Thunderball is going to be just as exciting as everything we've talked
Hmm.
about so far for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can't wait for Thunderball. What a great discussion! Like, I'm getting spoiled here. Like this is like the third Bond review. I never thought I would ever experience something this wonderful in my life.
Well, I'm so
Life
glad that your
highlights.
surgery went well, and you're
Yeah,
here to do this whole
yeah,
series together,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I can't believe we're already three movies in here. I didn't think this would ever happen. Let alone maybe I think, oh, maybe I would just do one movie, but we're doing every movie and we're up to the third one already. How fun!
Right? And then we have
What?
people that are our last, well, Doctor No video. It just exploded.
Uh-huh.
So I
Yeah.
guess I hope people are enjoying it as much as we're
Yes.
enjoying making them. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm sure that it'll continue to be because we have literally the best film franchise in history to look forward to for
Yeah.
this
Yeah. There's a
series.
lot to talk about. Yeah. And then offer still stands. I think I just uploaded the from Russia with Love video, but the offer of if you guys want to send me a 30-second to 3-minute recording of who your favorite Bond is, I can do a little compilation of that. And
Yes.
and we can still maybe kill time before you go to Japan with Omega Ace if he wants to do the 1954 Casino Royale.
That's right, and we could
Yeah,
do the
yeah,
1967 Casino Royale as well.
yeah. That's true. We could do that one. Yeah, we could maybe do that one before You Only Live Twice.
And mixing up
Yeah.
just a little bit of trivia quickly, if we did
Hmm.
Casino Royale, it was one of Woody Allen's first films, and
Hmm.
if he's James Bond's son, if I remember correctly, in the film,
Yeah,
played by David
Dr.
Niven.
Noah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's very wacky, of course, as he was in his 60s
Yeah.
films. He did
Yeah.
his first film was What's New Pussycat in
Uh-huh.
1965 that he wrote, And
Oh wow.
yeah, it was his first first time in a film, and the first film he wrote. And it's one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite '60s films.
Oh wow.
Peter O'Toole and Peter Sellers co-star with him,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
it's just a really fun, zany '60s comedy, romantic comedy film. And one of the women who is in that film, she plays a stripper, and she is one of the women in Goldfinger in Pussy Galore's Flying Circus. Just a little bit of
Oh
trivia there.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I don't know the actress's
Yeah.
name, but she's very beautiful, obviously.
Okay.
And that's just a
Did she
fun
come
tie
back?
in.
I wonder if she showed up in the '67 Casino Royale
I
or
don't
no?
know, but if we do watch it, I'll certainly find out for the
Uh,
review.
yeah. Because yeah, I know Ursula showed up in that, and she actually played Vesper Lind,
Right, right. I forgot
and
that. Wow.
I think Caroline Monroe is like uncredited. I can't spot her, but Caroline Monroe is in that, but I couldn't spot her. She must have been very young in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and speaking of Peter Sellers, didn't he kind of remind you like maybe they got Austin Powers look from him in the in the Casino
Yes.
Royale?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure that that was where Austin Powers look came from. Peter
Yeah.
Sellers is one of my personal favorite actors as
Oh,
well.
right on.
So
Yeah,
I
like
have a
the
lot of
Pink
respect for those
Panthers. Yeah.
films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of stuff to talk about in the future. We off to a good start, and we got plenty more to come. Once again, I want to shout out. Thank you for being here in the first place, but I want to shout out your channel, My Top Five, and I'm sure the Retro Orion interview on his top five games is out. His top five video games is out now already.
Yep.
There may be another one by the time this airs. So go check out My Top Five with Wubs. It's really great stuff. I usually don't like listening to myself, but man, you really edited that thing fantastic. That interview with me about video games, that was really good. I never enjoyed listening to myself so much. The way you edited it and put music and video and everything, it's so good.
Well, thank you.
Um, and then also you've been showing up on our boy Y Chromosome 99's channel. I'll just give him a shout out. You've been doing your weekly rants over there.
Yep. That's right. We
Yeah,
we talk about
yeah.
it's called the weekly rant because we talk about video games, movies, TV, what's going on with
Mm-hmm.
some of our favorite franchises and things a lot. What's going
Mm-hmm.
on politically with Hollywood
Mm-hmm.
and game studios, and so we get into a lot of more.
Mm-hmm.
Any topic is game pretty much
Uh,
over there. It's a little different
mhm.
from the other stuff we've been working
Yeah,
on.
yeah, no, that's good stuff. Yeah, I got through it. The last one was 4 hours. I got through it in 3 sittings, which I thought was pretty impressive. It's
Yes.
pretty entertaining. I always like listening to Chrome. His rants are really good. He's like we were talking about earlier. He's not a mean person, but he's honest.
Yeah.
He's yeah, he's a good person. Nothing not really a mean bone in him, but he's very honest.
Well,
And same with you. So yeah,
right. And
yeah,
Chrome is also a very accomplished gamer,
yeah,
right? He's been a gamer
yes,
for many years, so he knows a ton of
yeah,
stuff about the games and
yes,
the
yeah,
gaming industry, and so we dive
yeah,
deep over there into a lot of
yeah,
those topics and things. And
yeah,
he's a very passionate gamer, right? He has
yeah,
very strong opinions on the games that he loves, the franchises, the
yeah,
films, all that stuff, and it's really fun to hear him talk about
yes,
and share his opinions on the current state of the industry.
yes. Yeah, it was good stuff. I can't wait to hear your next episode. It's called the Weekly Rant, and it takes about a week to listen to. It's like 5 hours
Right.
of your week.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But with that, I guess we'll see it. I guess we'll close it with that. Thanks for everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. If you guys haven't seen Goldfinger, I don't know why you're here, but you got to go watch it. I'm sure we convinced you by now.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, if you made it this far, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the last few videos. really proud that our videos are going over so well. Put some more comments down there. Talk about James Bond. Talk about Goldfinger. Whatever you went down in the comments. Let us know anything you have to say down there. And with that, I guess we'll close it. Did you have anything else to say, Wubs?
Do you expect me to talk more?
No, I expect you to die.
Well done, boys. Another successful mission. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this debriefing, please like and share it with your friends.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.